Welcome to the next entry for the Wind Speaks audio blog. This morning I was thinking about the fact that the holidays are quick approaching, and that means that for many of us we'll be spending time with family and friends. And I got thinking about what I typically refer to as shadow work, and how in our relationships with family especially, things can get triggered. Somehow when we connect with family, they unconsciously bring out the best in us. And I mean that kind of jokingly. There's nothing like family to push our buttons and remind us of the parts of ourselves that we don't accept and the parts of ourselves that we reject. And I just wanted to put out a big reminder about that energy and how to work with it. And so when it comes to shadow work, we're always seeing a reflection of ourselves in the person outside of us. In other words, as we move through the world, it's like a hall of mirrors. We see aspects of ourselves in those that we engage with. And when we see those reflections coming back at us, we can have a reaction to those reflections. And so when we have history with someone like we do with family and even friends, there's an amplification that happens. Things get louder. And when things get louder, we lose ourselves much quicker. The depth of that history makes it harder for us to maintain composure. It makes it harder for us to remember the truth of ourselves. And on another level, when we have these kind of interactions and experiences, they're also asking us to learn and grow and understand ourselves in a deeper way, and to reconcile these energies that are rooted in the past but revealing themselves in the present. And so I always say that there's two things happening when we have these reactions. When we react to someone, there's their behavior, and I'm not saying that their behavior isn't an issue. However, what happens is that we have this overlay of our own experience and our own history that then overlays the behavior and amplifies the behavior. So there's these two things happening at the same time. One is the person's behavior, and two is the experience that we lay over that behavior. And that's the part that we individually can have control over and can take responsibility for. That's the part that is activating within us. And because it's within us, that reaction, it means that we can take responsibility for that and do something about it. And I know that this is easier said than done, but what happens is when we look at that person, if we were to look over their shoulder, we see all the people in our life that reflected to us a certain way of being that we have a hard time being with. And when we have a hard time being with something, we reject it in someone else. We reject the reflection that we see in someone else. But ultimately, it's asking us to reconcile that energy that exists within us. So, I'm not going to lie, this is hard work. There's layers upon layers of history that we carry within us that we're reminded of when we engage with others. And it's usually the people that we're closest to that amplify these things for us. And so it's kind of like this universal way that we can work with ourselves, which is, I think it's one of the best things, because when we can work with ourselves, we don't actually need the other person to be involved in the conversation or the dialogue. We can just do our own inner clearing of these energies. And sometimes it's as simple as just recognizing, who is it that this situation or this energy or this interaction reminds me of? And for me, it's often my mom or my dad is at the core and the beginning of it. And then there's all the characters and relationships that I've had afterwards that there's a reminder, like a ripple effect that carries through time. And the reason for that is because we need these relationships to be able to see these aspects of ourselves. And so when we can embrace one of these situations and kind of polish or buff out that layer, we can move on to the next layer. But the point I really wanted to make for this audio and for you as you navigate these connections over the holidays is just remember that there's an amplification happening. Remember that it's not just the behavior. There's something historical that is making this situation feel way louder than it is. And if you can recognize that and take responsibility for, oh, okay, this is something within me that actually has nothing to do with this person in front of me. They're just behaving in a way that's reminding me of my history. And if we can take that part and take responsibility for it, it will begin to diminish the intensity of what is happening in the moment and allow us to navigate it in a different way. So just hold on to that thought as you go into the celebrations that you're going to engage in and the people you're going to engage with, and maybe, just maybe, knowing that is enough to help turn down the volume and be able to navigate these situations with compassion for yourself, grace for yourself, and an awareness of, wow, this isn't about this present moment. It's about a history that I carry within me. So I think I'll leave it there. I wish you all the best over the holidays, and I hope that this audio was helpful in some way. Bye for now.